Hello, my name's Maite Gobel, and I am going to go over my lesson plan 1 with you guys. So I have created my lesson plan 1. It was for math for second grade students. The lesson plan that I put together is for September 26th and is going to be covering the topic of place values and 3-digit numbers. This lesson plan is a 1-hour lesson on decomposing numbers by place value and representing them using concrete and pictorial models. So by the end of the lesson, the students will be able to use concrete and pictorial models to represent a 3-digit number in multiple ways, and they will also be able to explain their representations by relating to the structure of our place value system. In my classroom, I have 2 ELLs, and their names are Larry G and Tommy Q, and then I have 3 ESE students, and their names are Stephen T, Josephine P, and Victoria M. While going over this assessment, you want to keep in mind different accommodations that you're going to make for these students and that you can make for these students. All right, so Stephen T has an active IEP for SLD. Josephine P has an active IEP because she's partially blind. And Victoria M is partially deaf, so she has an active IEP for being partially deaf. While my ESE students are both on 2 different levels. Larry is a level 1 beginning ELL student, while Tommy Q is a level 3 intermediate ELL student. So next, we're going to go over the materials that you're going to need to complete the lesson and what you're going to need to be able to complete the assessment of the lesson. So the students are going to need base 10 blocks, a place value chart, and note cards to complete the lesson. And then it's also beneficial if they have a dry erase board or drawing paper to draw on. And then the teacher, as your teacher, you want to have a document camera, a computer for presenting the information, internet connection, obviously, LCD projector, and a smart board. So first, I will demonstrate the concepts for you guys. I will introduce the lesson plan by demonstrating place values to the hundreds using concrete and pictorial models through the following interactive group activity with the students. I will first begin by passing out note cards. So I have 3 note cards. This is just what I'm going to use as my example. And I will ask students to select a digit from 0 to 9. So I'll have 3 students, 1, 2, and 3 students, select a digit between 0 and 9. So I'm going to give you an example. Okay, and then I will then select the 3 students, which I have already selected, to stand in the front of the class. The students will stand side by side, shoulder to shoulder, holding up their cards, like this. So I have 7, 8, and 3. Those are my 3 students standing shoulder to shoulder. I will start by talking about the 3-digit number the students have selected to make. And the number here is 783. It might be backwards for you guys, but that's okay. So 783, and then I will ask the students, what does each digit represent? So what does the 7-digit represent? Then I will ask them what the 8-digit represents in this number. And then I will ask them what the 3-digit represents in this number. So 7 represents the hundreds, 8 represents the tens, and 3 will represent the ones. As I'm asking them these questions, I will say, well, how do you know that that's what this number represents? How do you know that 7 represents 100, represents the 100 place value? How do you know 8 represents the 100's place value? And how do you know that 3 represents the 100's place value? If needed, I can review the value or the place value by using place value blocks with the students and show the block and say what it represents. So this is a 1 block unit representing 1. This is a 10 block unit representing 10s as 1, 10 ones as a bundle. This is a 100 block representing 101 or a bundle of 10 rods to make 100. I will then ask students to volunteer to model the number the students have made. And then I will show the place value chart on the board or document camera and ask students to represent the numbers of the chart attached to an example of a place value chart. So then the students will have a place value chart. Kind of like this one, where it says hundreds, tens, and ones. With this place value chart, like I said, I will ask the students to volunteer to model the numbers the students have made. The students made 783. So they will take the place value chart here, use the place value blocks to put 7 here, so 7 hundreds, 8 tens, and 3 ones. And that's what they will use the number blocks for. I will then ask the students, what is the largest number that you can make with these numbers? So then they would say 873 would be the correct number, but I would ask them, how do you know that this is the largest number you can make? Then I will ask the students, what is the smallest number that you can make with these numbers, which is 378. Again, I will ask the students, how do you know that this is the smallest number that you can make with these numbers? I will give each of my students time to think and have partner discussions about this number and why they think it's the biggest number and why they think it's the smallest number. If needed, I will repeat this process with another set of 3 digits. So I'll ask the students again to write a number 0 through 9 on another card and ask them to repeat the process to kind of help them remember. And then at this point, I'll ask my students to sit at their desks with a blank piece of value block, with a bank of place value blocks. And I'll ask them to take the last number you built, be sure it is the one with a small number of hundreds, and ask the students to see if they can recreate this quantity using only tens and ones. So say again the numbers 378. So instead of using tens blocks, they will only use, or hundreds blocks, they will only use tens and ones blocks to create this number. Okay? And then we will switch it the number again. So I'll say, okay, so now how do you make this number with only tens and ones, not using hundreds blocks? And then they can switch it again. How do you make this number with only making tens and ones place value blocks? Okay. Now from there, I will practice with students having their own board and blocks, or I prefer to do the groups of 3. I kind of like that idea better. And I will check the students' responses and clarify student thinking by asking guided questions. Some of the guided questions are, hold on just a second, I'm sorry. I skipped a whole step. So first I will group my students in groups of 3. Each student will move to the group bringing along his or her own number card. So this student will bring their number card, the number cards where they wrote 0 through 9. And then each group will need a set of base 10 blocks, a place value chart, and a dry erase board or a pencil and paper. It doesn't really matter either way. I will then tell the group to create the largest 3-digit number using their number card. So each student should have different numbers. They're not all going to have the same numbers, 7, 8, and 3. So they'll take all their cards, they'll combine them, and then they need to swap them up and make the smallest number. And then they need to swap them up and make the biggest number. They will represent the place value of this number in 3 ways. They will model using base 10 blocks. They will write on a place value chart. So on this place value chart, they will model it. And they will draw a picture model using the base 10 symbols. After I've checked the group's responses, I will ask the students to think of other ways they can represent this number by decomposing the hundreds or the tens. For extra practice, students can shuffle the number cards to create a new number and repeat the activity. And then in the groups, they can self-monitor each other for correct responses. Or one student in each group will raise their hand and when a new number has been represented for the teacher to come and clarify, so that I can come and clarify. Then I will also let the students do independent practice. The teacher, me, will give extra practice in their math station. So during center time, or when there's a math station, I will make sure that there is a place value chart and there's base 10 blocks there so the students can work, also pen and paper so that they can create their own numbers. And then most students this will give the students more practice with this because it's going to take more than just one lesson to help them. So it gives them the opportunity to practice this more. I will have the students represent, again, a 3-digit number in these math stations using base 10 blocks, a place value chart, and a pictorial base 10 model. This activity will be an exit ticket, which is going to be part of their assessment instrument. And then for their assessment, what I chose to do was have the students represent a given 3-digit number using base 10 blocks, a place value chart, and a pictorial base 10 model. This activity will be an exit ticket completed prior to finishing the lesson. So I'll do it before we finish the lesson to make sure that I can double check what the students are understanding and if I need to go over anything before I close the lesson out. The students will use this tool to show 3 different place value representations of this number. Using this, the teacher will be able to determine that the student is proficient independently with the concept. Like I said, I'm going to use this so that I can ensure that the students understand the lesson. That way I know that they learned enough from it and to see if I need to go over anything else. And that's it, guys. Thanks.